The storm had rolled in fast, sweeping across the prairie with a violence that made even the cattle restless. Thunder cracked in the distance, rolling like cannon fire across the open plains. Sheets of rain drummed against the old ranch barn, drowning the world in a constant, restless roar. The lantern hanging from a wooden beam swayed with every gust of wind, its glow flickering against rough-hewn walls. Inside, the air smelled of wet earth, hay, and fear. The rancher stood near the doorway, his broad shoulders hunched, hat dripping water onto the floor. His coat clung to him, soaked through, heavy with the storm. His face was shadowed by the brim, but his jaw was tight, his breath steady. He'd been in gunfights, chased wild horses, buried friends, but nothing in all those years had prepared him for the sight before him now. She was small, trembling, her hair plastered to her face from the rain. Her dress, once fine maybe before time and men had their way with it, was torn at the sleeves, frayed at the hem. Her wrists were red and raw, marked where the trader's rope had dug deep. She had been sitting in the dirt when he found her, surrounded by men who laughed too loud and looked too long. He'd stepped forward without thinking, thrown a handful of silver on the table and told them she was his now. The laughter had died quickly. No one argued when a man like him claimed something. Not out here, not with those eyes. Cold, calm, dangerous. Now she stood across from him, her back against a stall door, shaking but unbroken. She stared at him with something between defiance and despair. Her lips trembled when she spoke. "You paid for me," she said, her voice steady despite the fear underneath. "Now do it," the words struck him like a lash. He didn't move. Didn't even blink. Only the rain and thunder answered her. She took a step forward, fists clenched at her sides. "You paid for me like the others wanted to. So what's stopping you?" His throat felt dry, the weight of her gaze burning through him. "I didn't buy you," he said quietly. Her laugh was hollow, sharp. "That's a lie, cowboy. I saw the coins. You slammed them down just like they did. Silver for flesh. You bought me," he shook his head slowly. "I paid to stop them. That's all. You expect me to believe that?" Her voice rose. "Men don't pay for something they don't want." The lantern flickered again. He saw the way her eyes glistened, the way her body trembled, not from the cold, but from the memory of what she'd escaped. She was trying to be angry, to be fierce, but beneath it he could hear the exhaustion, the disbelief. Too many men had said kind words before doing cruel things. "I ain't like them," he said. She scoffed, but her voice wavered. "They all say that." He took off his hat and tossed it aside. Rainwater spattered the dirt floor. His hair, dark and slick, clung to his forehead. "What's your name?" She frowned, caught off guard. "Why do you care?" "Because if you're going to stay under my roof tonight, I'd like to know what to call you." She hesitated, suspicious. "Etta," he nodded. "Etta." He said it gently, as if testing how it felt on his tongue. "You can rest here till morning. Then you can go wherever you want. I'll give you a horse, supplies, money if you need it." Her brow furrowed. "You're letting me go?" He shrugged. "You ain't a thing to keep." Lightning flared through the cracks in the wall, briefly lighting up his face. She saw the scars there, the kind men got from years of hard living and bad choices. A man who'd seen things, done things. But his eyes were steady, and when they met hers, there wasn't hunger in them. Just quiet resolve. "You expect me to believe you're just gonna let me walk away?" She whispered. "Believe what you want," he said, turning toward the stall. "But I ain't gonna touch you." Her breath hitched. She took a step closer, the anger returning. "Then why'd you pay for me? Why risk yourself in that hellhole? You could have walked away, cowboy." He turned back, met her eyes. "Because I couldn't stand the look in yours." For a heartbeat, she froze. The wind howled through the cracks in the barn, carrying the smell of rain and smoke. She didn't know what to say. "I saw enough of that look in the war," he went on quietly. "Men who'd given up. Folks who thought no one would ever see them as human again. I ain't about to walk past that." Her voice softened, uncertain now. "You were a soldier?" "Once," he said. "A long time ago." Etta swallowed hard, her voice small. "You shouldn't have helped me." "You don't know what they'll say when they find out you took me." He gave a faint smile, weary and unbothered. "Let 'em talk. Folks been talking about me my whole life." She looked down, her fingers curling around the coat he handed her. It was heavy, smelling of leather and smoke, far too big for her. Still, she wrapped it around her shoulders and the warmth nearly broke her. No one had handed her anything in a long, long time. He turned toward the table by the far wall, where a kettle sat atop a small stove. The fire crackled beneath it, faint but steady. "You hungry?" She didn't answer at first. Then quietly, "I haven't eaten in 2 days." He nodded, poured her a tin cup of coffee and handed it over. She hesitated before taking it, her fingers brushing his. The warmth seeped through her skin, and something in her chest tightened painfully. They sat in silence for a long while, the storm raging outside. She sipped the bitter coffee, her eyes never leaving him. "You live here alone?" she asked finally. He nodded. "Been that way since my wife passed." "I'm sorry," she murmured. He gave a small shrug. It was years ago. The silence stretched again. The wind howled, the fire popped, and Etta found herself watching him more than she meant to. There was a sadness to him, the kind that ran deep, like the land itself. "Do you ever get lonely out here?" she asked. He looked up, met her gaze. "Sometimes. And still, you didn't want me for that." He smiled faintly. "I want peace more." Something inside her shifted at that. She looked down at the steam curling from her cup, her reflection faint in the dark surface. "Peace," she repeated softly, as if testing the word. "Haven't known that in years." "You can now," he said. When she looked up again, his eyes were on her, steady, warm, but careful, as if he knew one wrong move would shatter what fragile trust had started to form. "You really mean to let me go?" she said. "I do. And if I stay?" she asked quietly. "That's your choice." She didn't answer. The storm outside began to ease, the thunder rolling farther away. The barn was quieter now, filled only with the crackle of the fire and the soft, tired breathing of the horses in their stalls. She stood, pulling the coat tighter. Her steps were slow as she approached him, her bare feet silent on the dirt floor. When she was close enough to see the faint scar across his cheek, she stopped. "You're a fool, rancher," she whispered. "The world doesn't reward men like you." "Don't need rewards," he said. "Just sleep." Her lips twitched, almost a smile. "And what about you? You don't sleep?" He looked at her for a long time before answering. "Not much. Because of your wife? Because of the war? Because of ghosts? Because sometimes peace don't come easy." Etta studied him quietly. Then she nodded, as if she understood something deeper than words. She turned toward the corner where an old cot sat beneath a window. The mattress was rough, the blanket thin, but after months of dirt roads and cold nights, it looked like heaven. She sat down, clutching his coat, and for the first time in years, she felt safe enough to close her eyes. The rain slowed to a whisper. The rancher watched her for a moment longer, then turned back to the fire. He stirred the embers, added another log, and finally sat down, leaning back against the wall. His hat rested on his knee. In the dim light, he could see her chest rise and fall, slow and steady. She looked younger now, the hard lines of fear softening in sleep. He didn't know who she'd been before, what she'd done to end up in that hell of a place, but he knew she deserved better. When the dawn came, it crept over the plains like a promise. The storm had washed the world clean, leaving the sky a pale silver blue. He stepped outside, the air cool and fresh, the ground shining with puddles that mirrored the clouds. By the time he returned to the barn, she was awake, sitting on the cot, hair tumbling around her shoulders. She looked at him for a long moment before speaking. "You could have had me last night," she said quietly. "No one would have stopped you. I know. Then why didn't you?" He met her gaze. "Because I'm not like the men who sold you. Because I want you to know you still got a choice." She stood, walking toward him slowly. The light caught her face, no longer frightened, just thoughtful, almost peaceful. "A choice," she echoed. He nodded. She looked down, then back up at him, her voice trembling slightly. "Then I choose to stay. Not because you paid, not because I owe you, but because I want to." He didn't say anything for a long time. Then softly he smiled. "Then stay." Outside, the sun broke through the clouds, casting gold across the wet fields. The horses snorted softly in their stalls. The air smelled of rain and new beginnings. And for the first time in a long, long while, the rancher felt something like peace settle deep in his chest. By the time the day was half gone, the story of the man who bought a woman and freed her would travel across the plains, but they wouldn't know the truth of it. That in saving her, he'd saved himself too. And before that year was done, the rancher who once stood alone on a stormy night had a wife